What is it that's different about what you do?
Well, as I say, my first principle is I can't help anybody that's not willing to help themselves. Mm-hmm. Once we've established that they are prepared to engage, in other words, I think we can get them to believe, then it's a case of building the trust. Now, this is where the time factor varies. Mm. The minimum period I think is necessary is a minimum of 2 months. Okay. And that's building up over a period of Zoom conversations and then face-to-face meetings and so on. Yeah. Until we get to the point where I feel we can commit, at which point we start thinking in terms of spending money. That's the critical element from the charity point of view. And then they're confirmed as a guest on the Mountain Way program.
So when you say spending money, what do you mean by that, or are you about to come on to that?
Well, I can talk about the money. I take them out to the French Pyrenees for 15 days in the summer, and I take them to the island of Ibiza in the winter. Now, the academic, if you like, or the theoretical side of the program is identical for both. The reason I'm not using the mountains in the winter is simply because they're serious mountains. They're covered in snow, and in spite of our title, we're not actually mountaineers. We're walking in beautiful country, and yes. It's always pitched at the level of the individual. A lot of veterans don't actually want to climb a mountain or walk up a mountain. And that's why I've got the Ibiza option as well. But the other reason is just can't do the mountains in the winter. So the outdoor side is there to act as a counterpoise. And it's lots of other factors as well. The three main things that I practice are, first of all, meditation. And I get them into that as early as possible. And this is to give them a sense of control over, best described as the black fog. There's a kind of permanent washing machine cycle going around in their head of negativity, of the horror of the event or whatever it was, the despair and hopelessness and so on. It just keeps repeating. And so we've got to sort of find a way of breaking that cycle, and that's what meditation does. Yeah. It takes them a while before it has any effect, of course, and this is why I'm very keen to find out whether they're going to engage in this, because you've got to remember you're dealing with people who are very cynical.
Yes. Yeah.
But assuming we've got over that, and that can only be built up by personal experience, by talking to me and listening to me, and then I do a lot of listening with them. Sorry, my mind's just gone blank. Guided reflection yes. is a very simple way, and there's nothing to these things. Yeah. It's a way of giving them the confidence to talk about the issue.
Right.
And I use a lot of analogies. So I describe our mind as a multi-story car park. The conversation you and I are having now is probably on the middle level. This is the serious level. When I run ashore later on tonight, we'll be on the top level, up in the sun having some fun. Yeah. But in the basement is where all this stuff is. And that's the place where most people don't want to go. And there's a general belief with PTSD that actually getting people to talk about the issue is the wrong thing to do. I've seen many references to this. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but my view is the opposite. I think, no, this is what you actually need to do. But you've got to find the courage within yourself. You've got to find the right time, the right place, right. and the right person.
So it's not that you're forcing this information out to people, you're giving them the opportunity to do it when it's right.
No forcing whatsoever. Yeah. It has got to come from them. And then cognitive reframing, as our psychologist, Dr. Pat Guire, calls it, but I call it positive thinking, is the third element. And that's much harder to define because it can take any direction it needs to take with the individual. But essentially what I'm asking him to do is to practice till it becomes instinctive, looking for the positives in the negatives. And if you can get this weight off, I believe you can see the positive in death. You can go that far. Now, I know that sounds a bit thin, but my belief is if you've got 1% of positivity, that's better than any amount of negativity. Yeah. So it's a question of practicing on those three things. And that follows the theme of the program. So we start off with moving towards the center point, which is roughly about day 7, which is where we intend to talk about the event, whatever it is. Usually when I meet for the first time, it's like the dams burst. And if it's a phone call, I think, oh my goodness, this is going to cost. Because to be on the phone for at least 3 hours. And it just comes tumbling out. So I have to let that happen. And then I have to put the brakes on and say, look, this has to be controlled. If we don't give this the gravitas it needs, it won't mean anything. So this is a serious event. I'm taking it seriously. You must do the same thing. And so I'm forcing him into a form of structure, if you like. But it's not really a powerful imposition. It's really a case of just follow the flow.
Right.
And it's through this process that I get them to the point where they actually talk about the issue. And that's around about the midpoint. And from that point onwards, we're going upwards. And then the tempo changes because we're now looking at all the positive sides of life and everything else.